She's a lady. All right, we may begin.
Okay, this is the Monday, December 4th, 2023, regular meeting of the Architectural Review Committee of the City of Palm Springs. It is 5:30 and we are underway. Everybody in the audience, please silence your cell phones and pagers. Planning Director, could we please have a roll call?
I'll do that.
Kim.
Members Thompson and Walsh are excused tonight. Member Poline.
Here.
Member McCoy.
Here.
Member Dosey. Here. And Chair Jakeway,
Here,
you have a quorum.
thank you. May we have a staff report on the posting of the agenda?
Yes, the agenda for this meeting was made available for public access at the City Hall Bulletin Board on the west side of the council chambers by 9 p.m. on Thursday, November 30th, and posted on the city's website as required.
Thank you. Does the committee have any?
100%.
I didn't hear what she said. We'll keep going. Does the committee have any revisions to the agenda? We have a motion to accept the agenda.
Motion to accept. Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, moving on. Since this is a public meeting, audience members are permitted to comment on any issue that is within this committee's purview. Comments on an item appearing on today's agenda are made at the time that that item is presented. If anybody would like to speak on an item not on today's agenda, you may speak now. Each speaker would have 3 minutes. Anybody want to speak on a non-agenda? Seeing none. Okay, we can move ahead. We do not have minutes from the previous meeting, so we'll move ahead to the consent agenda. And that starts with item 1A, which is a request by Residential Design by Jonathan Pellizzare for a major architectural review application to construct a 2,243 square foot single-family residence on a hillside parcel located at 2700 North Vista Grande. Does anybody on the committee have any objections with that being on the consent agenda? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
John
Second.
McCoy, second, and Tom Dosey, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to new business. Item number 2A. Request by Jeffrey Smizek and Diana Strassman, owners, represented by Studio A&R&B for a major architectural application to construct a 5,566 square foot single-family residence on a hillside parcel located on lot 22, which is 2593 Winter Sun Drive. Do we have a staff report, please?
It's up in just a minute. What's up? What's up?
It's not on the screen.
Oh, so doing shares.
Bear with us with the technology. Simple. All right, thank you, Chair. So this is an application by Studio AR&D to construct a 5,566 square foot single-family residence in Desert Palisades. I have a few slides here showing where the property is located. Lot 22 is one of the largest lots in Desert Palisades. It's at the top of the development. It's a pie-shaped lot, which you can see here, which is unusually shaped. Nearby, there are other houses that are under development across the street, and there is one that's proposed adjacent to it, and you'll see other houses scattered throughout the development, and this is filling in nicely. There are some renderings of the project that's proposed before you. The house that's proposed is a 5-bedroom with a master wing and then other 2-car garage with a circular driveway. The driveway is a little bit curved, so it sort of takes away from the direct view of the driveway from, or the garage directly from the street. So the applicant had angled that and then also added some larger trees to sort of screen the garage door from the street itself. So the property is oriented north-south, with the east portion of the lot here. My little cursor going. On this, in the Desert Palisades lots, there is a 7.5 foot no build easement. And that is to the east here where the hatch mark is. And the house is out of that easement, no build easement, and then additional 10-foot setback on the side. Then on the south side of the lot, there's a large arroyo that runs through the development that starts at the top of the hill. And this is an open space from the lot to the south. So the property, as it's cited, the house meets all development standards in terms of setbacks. The landscape plan here shows a variety of desert plants that include plants such as acacia, Texas ebony, Mexican ebony, multi-trunk olives and olive trees, and a variety of other desert cactus, vertibush, prickly pear cactus, and other varieties of plants interspersed within the boulders and other rocks that are on the site. We have a plant list, which is in your package for review, showing quantities and sizes, and setback exhibit. And there's also a grading plan that was attached to the back of the staff report. So it's not in the staple packet, but it was a folded sheet that was added. Yes, right there it is. Chair has it. There's a floor plan showing how the house will be designed. It's fairly simple in its geometry as far as a north-south orientation with a great room and kitchen. And then the guest wing is on the left-hand side. I'm sorry, the master wing. And then there's a roof plan showing how the solar panels will be placed on the roof. And then building elevations, the building is at the maximum height is 13 feet tall, so it's a low house. There's one point of a wing wall that goes above the pillow plane, but it can act as a screening of the solar. So it's just a minor penetration above that. Cross sections that are in the packet there showing the orientation north-south and then east-west. And then a material board showing the types of materials that will be used, poured in concrete, stucco, some wood elements, and then other types of rock and rubble and tiles, pavers in the driveway, and other elements. The applicant provided a series of renderings as to the orientation of the house and how it would look with some of the landscaping. You'll see that it's desert modern. There also was an exhibit in one of the folded sheets of this fence that's proposed, which is this metal picket fence. And that exhibit, I don't include it in my packet, but it is in your exhibit. Yes, you have it there. And this is the elevation. The house does sit about 5 feet below the street. So as you go into the driveway and down into the garage, this would be an orientation looking south towards from Winter Sun Drive. The outdoor areas of the house are oriented to the west and south, showing views of the valley below, and that's this exhibit here with the infinity pool, and then as we mentioned, the picket fence that would go around the rear portion of the house. And these are just some elements of the design of the interior, how the wood elements on the roof will continue out into the overhangs over the outdoor areas. Some site photographs that were included in your packet. As I mentioned, the site is at the top of the hill. It's got great views, boulders, and other desert landscaping like creosote and vertibush are there. So that concludes my report. The application as submitted meets the development standards for Desert Palisades, and we recommend approval.
Thank you. Does the committee have any questions for staff?
The applicant has arrived.
I have a question
Okay,
on the site plan. It shows an outline of two vehicles parked in the left corner there. Is that an actual parking bay that they're proposing?
yes, there is a on-site parking pad.
Well, there's a pad shown over by the garage, but this is in the,
Oh, over here, yes, there, and this is popping up in Desert Palisades, these sort of off-street parking pads. I think the next house that you're gonna look at also has the same situation. The applicant can describe as to, will there be that many cars at the site?
Hi, this is Jeff Smizik, and I'm here with my wife, Donna Straussman. We're the applicant, I guess, and
Jeff, we're
I'm
not
sorry?
ready yet.
Oh,
We're
I'm
not
sorry.
ready.
I apologize. I'm sorry. Thought you were asking me a question. All right.
No, not yet.
Did you condition?
any other questions of staff?
I actually just want to speak to those parking pads and just to make sure there's consistency between this recommendation and the one that you're about to see. I think it was an oversight by us to not add a staff recommended condition to this to eliminate those parking spaces. I know that you've seen these parking spaces in other applications in Palisades. And I think at the time, we needed to have some additional conversations with the engineering department, but staff are opposed to the location of those parking spaces. They were not contemplated at the time that we went through the Desert Palisades specific plan process. Engineering department does have concern about the amount of grading that will be necessitated by those generally, not just looking site specifically here, but also on the cumulative effects on circulation within Palisades that hasn't been studied by engineering us or through the environmental review process. So I think in the interest of consistency, we have a recommendation in one of the presentations that follows to condition to remove those. I would recommend that you add it here as well at the request of our engineering department who are concerned about
Chris,
it.
do you know how wide the paved portion of the street is?
I don't know that. Do you have it on the plan?
26.
26 feet.
And then there's decomposed granite shoulders in addition to the travel way.
Right.
I have a question. When we look at the grading plan, it's not reflected on there, so I'm assuming the grading plan is maybe the most recent site plan with proposed grades.
Right, and I think that's where when we get to the applicant, perhaps they can clarify for us what their intention was here. But I did just want to provide that commentary so we can think of it consistently.
Yeah, I guess a comment I would make about the grading is on this particular lot, you can see because they're relocating an existing waterway. They're really grading that entire section of the lot anyway to create all this new flow over here. So that's not as much of a concern on this lot, but I totally understand that setting precedent on one lot versus another can be an issue. So it's just something that we should discuss.
And for us, again, the cumulative effects without being studied, we would be concerned that at some point, someone would need to reinitiate and reevaluate the environmental review process to account for these, if that's the direction we want to go in.
Well, I think the staff made an interesting comment on the next project. We're gonna look at mentioning that a car could be parked there by the owner and left there all year. There's no limitation on how time that it can be there. And I have seen some areas where they can create those off-street parking areas and screen them. But most of these, there's zero opportunity for screening unless you were able to berm or landscape within that decomposed granite area that's really not part of their property. Okay, any other questions of staff? Okay, now is the time for the applicant to make a presentation. You have 10 minutes and please tell us your name and what you want us to know about the project.
Hi, this is Tara. I'm one of the designers of the project. I'm representing Studio R&D Architects today. So can I go ahead and share screen? Or
Yes.
if you have the plans already, or if it's helpful, I can. Is that?
If you bring up what you want to talk about, that way we'll all be looking at the same thing.
Okay, I'm sorry. Are you guys able to see my screen right here?
There we are.
Mhm. Yeah,
Just see, I'm showing Mark here and I'm able to fill in. Tara's gonna present the project, but if there's any other questions, I can help fill in.
And Chris, just remind me, at what point does the actual applicant, the owner, comment? After the design team?
I think we can do the design team presentation and then if they want to make remarks, you can certainly take them.
Right.
Or you could choose to just ask.
Okay, Sean and Tara.
yeah. So we kind of started our design by identifying the optimal views for the site and also the more like minimally sloped areas. And that's kind of what determined the building orientation over here. And the design was further developed by more conversations with the clients, kind of responding to their needs and wants, which created this separate master suite over here and a guest suite located right here towards the east of the building. And as for site elements, we do kind of have landscaping. We have this long swimming pool with a raised spa, our concrete hardscape, and yeah, car garage over here and guest parking located right here. Yeah, so we started by taking a median of the contours to be able to minimize grading as much as we can. And on this guest suite towards the east of the house, where we're getting closer to the setback, we've added more stairs to lower the finished floor and to get it closer to the existing grade as much as possible. And we kind of designed our landscaping in a way to provide more privacy for the owners, mostly focusing on like the master suite area, some by the pool, and boulders to help us retain soil as much as we can. Yeah, and some of the issues that did come up when we had our pre-conference was providing more roof overhangs for the master suite area located right here. And then, yes, as for height violation, we have this one concrete wall right here that does express the we're like violating the height by at 8 inches at the maximum right at this corner, and it does span for about 10-11 feet, but it gets reduced to just by 1 inch, and we are using that as our mechanical screening per Glenn's recommendation. And as for the existing historical flow line, we did propose to relocate it and create a new path, working with our civil engineer and also talking to Rick Manjaras from the engineering department, and under the conditions that we would be able to maintain its entry point and its natural discharge point, and also if we could maintain the existing velocity of the water at the discharge location. They said we could go ahead and do it. And yeah, so for the points that came up, our garage also, the entry for the garage, we did try to hide it more from the street level. Yes, by providing landscaping, but also by sloping it down as much as we can. So it would not be as visible from the street when you're standing over here. Yeah, and as for our program, we have our building entry right here with a powder room and a coat. We have typical great room functions here with a living room, kitchen, and a dining room. Our secondary functions for like pantry, laundry, coffee, and we have 2 guest bedrooms with partition walls in them actually, so they could be subdivided into 2 more rooms with a shared bathroom. So 2 of them located right here, and our master suite, as I said, separate from the rest of the house to provide more privacy to the owners, with our master bedroom right here, master closet, a laundry room, and a master bathroom. And yeah, and we do have a small proposed outdoor living area right here, which would include a sink and a countertop to be used adjacent to the pool mostly, and we are proposing a solid roof over it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. John, anything to add?
It's just the only thing I might add, Tara, are you able to walk us through any of the renderings, some of the views, maybe from the street and diagram? Maybe that height restriction also?
Especially if we can see that outdoor room on the renderings, because I didn't quite understand how that's.
Oh,
Okay.
over here. So we haven't developed the design yet. It's something that we are proposing. I can kind of show you guys in the model. Right here. So it would be sitting on a pad like this and just with a countertop over here with like an under counter, like ice maker, sink. So just to be used when you're nearby the pool, just for ease of access. But we haven't really developed the design. We would just like to make a note that we are thinking about locating it right here.
So I assume if you add that, would this have to come back to ARC or would the staff be able to review that?
I think you would probably be able to approve that as a minor.
And Sean, is it detached? You know?
We want it to
Not
be
sure.
attached to that
The
concrete
heavy wall.
Yeah.
cast in place,
Mhm.
this, the steel beam that extends out and creates sort of the.
I think that would be a nice way to make it more cohesive with the project versus just standing there on its own.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah,
Would that then be reflected on the grading plan? Because it looks like he's showing like a depression or a.
It looks almost like a detention.
Tension, yeah, that's. It's on the back of the folder. This was actually like this all outlined in red. You can read the contour. Right. Thank you. There it is. Right in time. Good effort. Yeah.
so he's got some retention area, yeah, we would manipulate that and shift that retention.
This is on the.
When you've got such a big flow of water moving off the site through the existing waterway, we'll call it. Can you use that to move this water instead of having to retain it?
It's my understanding that that historic, is he on the call? No?
No.
Okay, yep, it's my understanding that if that's the historical flow line and the existing hydrology is already flowing through that site, then manipulating it across there and allowing that same quantity, cubic footage of water to pass through and escape is acceptable.
I guess what I'm wondering is if that retention depression gets eliminated, can it be added over into that waterway or can there somehow be a retention within that? So that it,
I see. I would think what he's got for retention here, it's my understanding that that's to deal with our own water that we're creating, not that conveyance
right.
of the historical
no, I
flow.
get that, but I think, is there an opportunity to use that
Gotcha.
existing thing for your nuisance water?
I'll can note that, hope so.
Yeah, because once water's flowing, water's flowing.
And there's not a lot of other real estate on here with what we've created to create more retention.
Right,
There are things we can do like a seepage pit or some dry wells and things like that.
Or float that deck out over it or.
Yes, but that starts to add to the expense, so I might want to try to deal with retention if we, on-site retention basins if we can. Rather than create seepage pits or dry wells.
mhm. Any other questions for the design team?
I would just like to show, if it's okay, our height violation, so you guys can see. So this would be the only point, and as you can see, right here at the maximum, we have it at 8 inches, and on the other side of that concrete wall, it's about 6 inches, and it quickly gets reduced down to about 1 inch. And this is about the span of it is it goes like for the longest, it goes about 11 feet maximum, but this is currently what we're dealing with.
Thank you. Okay, does the owner or applicant want to make a presentation to us or give us any comments?
I'm sorry, I spoke at the wrong time. I didn't know the drill here.
You didn't
My
know,
wife,
so-
I'm Jeff Smizer, my wife Donna Strassman is here. The only thing I wanted to mention is the that parking pad, I mean, it's not of, supreme importance in any way. This is going to be a part-time residence for us, probably about 3 months a year. We've got two adult children. One lives in San Diego, lives in Washington, DC. We thought when they flew in, they'd want to rent a car. We'll likely have only one car there in the garage. But we wanted to have a space where they could park the car, so it wouldn't deprive us of ingress or exit from the garage itself. If they park directly on the driveway. And I, in terms of the screening, I'd have to ask Sean and Tara about that, but that was the purpose of it. It's not, we have zero intention of having a car sitting out year round in Palm Springs. Would have, if anything, we'll likely have only one car. It'll be in the garage. Guests could park in the garage, and if both of our kids are there at the same time, one would be stuck parking outside for the duration of their visit.
Well, I gotta think the primary use of that space is for service people, the pool service, the gardening.
So Tara, would you mind pulling up that site plan sheet one more time? Because I think
Mhm.
it's a little confusing on which parking we were talking about.
This one, they were talking about
Yes.
this one on the, yep.
To me, that was designed so a pool maintenance person or a landscape crew could pull
Mhm.
over and park there.
Mhm.
That would be primarily for their use. The other
Mhm.
parking up in the front, I think maybe what Jeff was referring to. Yeah, we don't see that cars would be there full time, but they're both
Mhm.
on within our property line, and to me, that looks.
That seems
legit.
well screened.
Mhm. And it does have good landscape screening on the
Mhm.
lawns for that. Yeah, I think the other one, which was getting frowned upon, the maintenance one over there. I think if we don't define that, that's gonna be the natural place where the pool person's gonna pull over and park his rig there. Whether we want him to or not on that shoulder, and whether we have it in as far as we show it here. Or we just leave them that DG shoulder that's currently existing out on site now. I wouldn't hang my hat on that one.
Well, I gotta guess on every lot here, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
Yes.
People are gonna use that shoulder.
Mhm.
Okay, at this point, we would take, oh, sorry, Tom?
Sean,
Yeah.
on the site plan, there's like an informal seating area. Just out further down on that sheet.
Yes, yeah, with a little fire pit, yep,
Mhm.
Okay,
yeah,
and that will be reflected on the grading plan as this
yes,
progresses
correct.
through here.
yeah.
There are some contours going through. it.
Yeah, there are, and we wanted to, it's, as you can see on the contours below that, so you're looking at the existing
Mhm.
contours on your grading plans.
Mhm.
Should occur below that, it's generally a flattened area of natural topography that's generally somewhat level compared to some of the steeper areas. And that's why we define that area there for just another little node of activity or some place of refuge to go and look at the view, the twinkling lights at night, and have a fire pit there. And there's some, on the landscape plan, there's some landscaping around that, creating that area also.
I have a question that in the great room on the kind of the glass facing west or northwest, there's zero overhang on that, but it looks like there's an opportunity to certainly extend an overhang there. Is there a reason why there is no overhang?
Tara, I'm gonna let you handle that one.
Yeah, so, sorry, you're talking about which orientation over here by the great room?
Yes.
Yeah, so we could certainly extend the overhang over there. However, one of the things we were kind of looking at, since towards our project south, that would be right here, we have provided such a large overhang. There's barely any direct sunlight going into the great room. And towards the north, we wanted to provide more sunlight to the owners. So that's the reason why we kept it shorter. But
wanna show
if
you-
it's
See, I would call that more west than I would north. It's. you
sorry,
know,
it's
so-
like our project north. I'm sorry. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, True North is about a 45 here,
Yeah, that's right.
a little
Here,
confusing.
wait, I think I have the
Okay.
actual orientation. Yep. Yep, this is up facing north. Yeah. Uh-huh. So if we can kind of see, yeah, so this is the maximum amount of sunlight they can get from the front. And as you can see, the sun's not really going into that living room, great room area. So we did want to keep the overhang shorter on the west side. But if it is a requirement, we could certainly extend the overhang. I don't think it would hurt the design in any way.
Yeah, that west sun can be so brutal.
Hmm.
Okay, any other questions for the design team?
Hmm.
Okay, at this time is when we can have public comments from the audience. Is there anybody other than the applicant who would like to speak on this project? Don't see anybody here. Thank you. So now, committee discussion.
I'll just make a comment
Yeah, Tom.
regarding the site plan. I think what I would like to see is more integration of what's shown on the site plan onto the grading plan. You know, that it reflects some of the boulder groupings and the opportunities they're using for, you know, the boulders to take up grade and separate some of the areas. So I think that's, and also the other outdoor seating area should be reflected. And the area we spoke about where we think they're showing a retention basin,
Mhm.
the grading plan and site plan be coordinated.
Thank you. John McCoy, any comments?
No comments at this time.
Thank you.
Nope.
Nothing else. I think it's a very nice project and, you know, as we're seeing more of these, we start to get such a similar group of comments for all of them. But a lot of them have been addressed. Do we have a motion on this project?
Motion to approve as submitted.
With the staff recommendations.
Yes, the staff recommendations and the removal of the parking spaces on the road.
The removal of the parking spaces is part of it.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All ayes? Thank you. No opposition. Okay, now we are gonna move on to item number 2B, which is a request by Sean Lockyer of Studio AR&D Architects for a major architectural review application to construct a 5,211 square foot single-family residence at a maximum building height of 13.1 feet on a 22,408 square foot undeveloped hillside property located at 2215 Vista de Estancia Court. Could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, good evening, everyone. The project in front of you is a proposed new single-family residence within the Desert Palisades specific plan area. The site,
So you have to share.
sorry, excuse me. This one? Mhm. Very long, I'm going to do that here.
That's fine.
All right. My apology. Let me. All right, so the project site is approximately half an acre in size, and applicant is proposing to construct a new residence, which is 5,211 square feet. The proposed building is a single story with the maximum height of 13.1 feet. The project site is lot 99, which is located at the southeast section of the Desert Palisades specific plan area, and it abuts to the boundary line of the specific plan area as well. The properties that are immediately adjacent to the site are all undeveloped, as you can see from these images. And the site's topography slopes down from the west to the east and the southeast corner of the lot by approximately 16 feet. And the site has an existing large boulders. I'm sorry, I don't know why it's cropped, but the site has an existing large boulders, which is the character defining feature of the site. And this is a proposed site plan. Approaching from the Vista Distancia Court, the site is designed with a 14-foot wide driveway along the west property line, which leads to a two-car garage. Applicants proposing to break up the volume of the building to provide articulation. And the site is designed with a pool and spot, as well as equipment enclosures and a trash enclosure. And this is the proposed residence. As you can see, the existing border will be incorporated into the design of the residence. The house is designed with a two-car garage and 4 bedrooms. This is a north elevation of the proposed residence, which faces a street. The applicant is proposing a mix of stone, stucco, and glazing for a modern and organic appearance. And the applicant is proposing the use of rectangular forms throughout the development. This is the east elevation, which exhibits a strong horizontal profile and with a design with a prominent roof overhang, which provides outdoor living area by the pool, and the expensive glazing will allow view to the city. And this is a west elevation, which accommodates a garage opening. And as you see on the section drawings of the elevation will incorporate a large grazing area to showcase the border. And this is a south elevation, which has a slight roof overhang, but it really lacks any prominent roof overhang, as you see on the east elevation. And the Desert Palisades specific plan has a requirement that the building height cannot exceed 18-foot so-called pillow. And this red line shows that pillow line. And none of the structure will project beyond that, the height limit. And the proposed project includes a mix of construction materials such as stone, metal, and wood and stucco. And the proposed color palette is desert neutral for a modern organic appearance. The applicant is proposing solar panels on the rooftop, and the color of the roof will be tan. And additional renderings to communicate what's being proposed. A prominent roof overhang on the east elevation by the pool area. And then also the expansive glazing to take advantage of the view to the mountains. And applicants proposing a scattered landscape installation to accentuate certain areas of the project site rather than installing a landscape that contributes to a different architectural, not architectural, but the landscape design or anything. It's just something just to complement the proposed building. And the proposed site plan includes a guest parking, and the specific plan neither explicitly allows it nor prohibits it. However, the specific plan encourages design that minimizes the visibility of the parking. And should the ARC approve a guest parking for this project, there will be no mechanism to monitor the use, meaning that even though it's in physical guest parking, the residents can park the vehicles there indefinitely. And approval may set a precedent for future development partner for the community, and the staff does not think that aligns with the intent of the Desert Pines design guidelines. The staff finds that the project conforms with the development standards, except for the retaining wall, which is proposed along the west property line. And the screening for any portion of the wall which exceeds 36 inches in height needs to be provided. And as for the architectural and hillside design review criteria, the guest parking and associated light fixtures do not really meet the requirement. And then also the solar control on the west and south elevations. However, staff thinks that if the recommended conditions of approval are implemented, the project meets these requirements. And then also these conditions will not really alter the nature of the project or the character of the proposed design. So that being said, the staff recommends that the ARC adopt a resolution and approve the project subject to conditions of approval, which include but are not limited to the removal of the proposed guest parking along Vista Distancia Court and associated lighting fixture, and the removal of the retaining wall along the west property line entirely, or reduce the linear length to 25 feet, and screen any portion of the wall which exceeds 36 inches in height. And then also to address the solar control issue on the south and the west elevation, staff recommends that the applicant install interior shades and they use construction materials that provide efficient installation on the glazing areas and walls on the west and south elevations. This concludes the staff presentation, and the applicant is here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Noriko. Committee members have questions for staff?
Can you point out that retaining wall on the site plan?
So this is the retaining wall that extends right next to the driveway.
Okay.
So the specific plan limits the linear length to 25 feet. The project proposing about 87.8 feet right now.
So Noriko, on the west side of the retaining wall, I assume the earth is coming up near the top of the retaining wall and then sloping away, so you're not gonna see much of the wall from off of the property, is that true?
Well, based on the topography of the site, that west side should be slightly higher than the project site, because it's.
And that's why the retaining wall is,
Right, but then again, the applicant can confirm the details of the slope and elevation of the retaining wall.
I have a question. Are they allowed to add landscape to that easement area or that?
No, the non-build buffer has to remain untouched.
Totally
pretty much.
natural.
Correct.
Thank you.
any other questions of staff? Okay, if the applicant is present, if you could give us your name and a brief presentation of your project.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aditi. I'm a designer working with Sean on this project.
I'm sorry, could you tell me your name again?
Aditi,
Aditi?
ADITI. Aditi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you. Of course, I'd like to begin with describing the project to you guys. We have our entry to the house. We enter from the north direction, and I do know we provided guest parking spots at the entry for ease of parking for people who are visiting. We have tried to kind of conceal our driveway entrance and place that strategically at the west of our site, so you don't see it from the street at all. And we've provided a walkway to enter the house, which also has an entry from the west direction. The entry, we've tried to keep it really private. We've extended the driveway a little to find parking for guests out there as well. As you enter the house, we've tried to play, as we go towards the south of the property, the grade goes down, so we've tried to levels and gotten the master wing, which occurs at the south direction of the lot, about 1'6" lower than the rest of the house to kind of meet the grade out there. As you can see, we've provided our pool and all the outdoor area at the east side. And we have ample overhangs in that direction. I do know we had this glazing, a lot of glazing issue come up, but we providing shade pockets for enough screening from sunlight on both directions. We've tried to integrate the boulder on our west, which is a really high boulder. As you can see from the renders, we're also gonna provide shade pockets towards that direction for all the glazing that we have. And on the east side, we also have east and almost south, we have a private spa. Towards the south, we have this huge hill beyond the house, which is super private. I don't think there's gonna be any development there. So we kind of retain that for the master and the primary suite and their area to enjoy outdoor space and seating and a fire pit next to this spa.
There's an element shown to the right of the swimming pool, between the end of the pool and the house, but it's not called out. I have no idea what that is.
That's the outdoor barbecue area.
Barbecue. Does it have a roof over it or anything, or it's just a countertop?
Just a countertop, but the overhang it just stops right before it.
Sean, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee for the design team? And I know this is a little unique because Sean, I think you are the applicant also, so do you want to add anything as an applicant?
We're talking about the retaining wall quite a bit, so.
Well, I guess the question I would ask is, if it's a 25-foot maximum length, is there a gap that can be before you start another 25-foot long wall? Or is it limited to a single wall? I mean, what's the?
Well, the specific plan prohibits property walls. So just to think about the intent or the language in there. Although it does not talk about the situation where the retaining wall is, installed as a segment, instead of one solid line, but.
Well, because you say property walls, this isn't obviously a property wall and it's obviously hidden from the retaining dirt side. And if I can remember correctly, it's not that high.
Well, that's what I was thinking from the retaining dirt side. There's nothing to see.
Yeah.
Maybe a little sticks up above grade.
The
Little bit,
walls
just,
are really short. It's about 6-7 inches at some heights.
right, but I think it was a maximum of 3 feet, 4 feet.
Yeah, and then the soil would pretty much drop down all the way towards it, and only like 2 inches probably would be exposed above it to retain that soil.
Enough to, pick up
Yeah.
a little bit of water before it goes.
See, I think the issue's kind of moot if you're not seeing it from off the property. I would say if you're gonna have these little jogs, can they be made a little bigger so you can get some landscaping in there? But one of the huge problems is what does the footing look like? Is there a way to dig a hole or not? I would suspect most of it's going underneath the retained portion. Or maybe the footing, you would just tell the engineer that that's how the wall needs to be designed, so that.
Yeah,
would have-
you can kick it on the downhills, underneath the driveway if you had to.
But then you couldn't use it as a planter.
True.
That would be
Correct.
my question is. And maybe not every section is a planter, just the two that are set back closer to the property line and then those.
Yeah, maybe there's enough to get a vine in there and something to break up the wall.
What's the width of the driveway as it's proposed? 14?
It's about 13 to 14 feet.
Another question I had coming in. Nice and wide, but then this little section looks like it's 30 inches wide or less. Is that?
Yeah,
It looks nice if it's bigger.
Just do one step.
it's a,
Any other questions for the design team?
Yes, my thought, I was looking at that retaining wall as well, that, you know, in the previous project, you commented how you put more landscaping and things out by the street to screen for the garage. You've got a similar kind of a bend situation with driving down the street, the wall is visible. I appreciate the simplicity of what you've done in the front, but is there an opportunity to the right of the walkway, between the driveway and the walkway, to add some more screening to lower down the visuals of that retaining wall?
It would also help to screen that trash enclosure area on the street view.
Just more landscaping the part between the driveway and the.
Is that what you meant? Adding more landscape between the,
Yeah,
I see. Okay.
To screen the retaining walls that are at the.
Well, just as you pull the landscaping towards the street, it will act as a
right. As you
shield.
driving along, it'll have less visual impact and screen the trash.
Sure,
Okay, any other comments from the applicants?
sure, meaning like good idea too.
Okay, this is a time for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make a comment on this item? Seeing none, I think it's time for our committee discussion.
A question of staff.
Yeah.
Is there a setback requirement of hardscape from the property limits? If you look at the site plan, if we can. go, I guess.
There's a setback requirement for building, but not the hardscape.
It looks like there's a patio off the primary that comes right to the, if you could zoom
On the south side.
Yes.
to the other.
If it's a flat work, then no.
On the south side.
That goes to open space. plan.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why it's zoomed. Is that, would that deck be on grade or, oh, there it is.
Oh, six is-
Right in
yeah.
back.
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
So to the south, is that an undevelopable piece? Is that part of Palisades or?
No, it's not a part of this Palisades and it's, I believe it's government land.
So your southern property line is the boundary of the Palisades project?
Yes, there is also a buffer to the east along the right side of what you're seeing on the screen. Quite a large one, and then there's a 5-acre residential parcel to the east of that buffer. That buffer, I don't even wanna guess what the width is right now. Oh, it shows on the site plan, it's 30 feet and change, might say 35 feet here. Before that next westernmost property line of that 5-acre parcel, which happens to be outside of Desert Palisades. But to the south, no parcel is there, and that what you're seeing, I'll just get up. This is really the toe. And what you see the more pinkish hue here is a really steep hillside. Which is that, I believe it's government.
Okay. Committee members, other comments or thoughts?
Well, I have a couple comments. One, if you look at the grading plan, on the landscape plan, there's a large open space area adjacent to those parking, but that's also a retention area. So I think there needs to be some landscape treatment to coordinate with the grading. I know the plans are flipped on the page.
Yeah.
So it's retention basin number 1. And then the only other comment is, again, is on the lighting, there's a proposal of, looks like a total of 79 fixtures. And I would just encourage the applicant to, maybe respect, that they, maybe not as many lights are needed, but they're dimmable or manageable, so it doesn't create hotspots on the hillside there.
Okay, other comments? Steve, anything?
Nope.
Sarah, anything?
No, I love the boulder. I think that's kind of great, integrated into.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval with the comments that were discussed and staff recommendations.
Thank you. Do we have a second to that?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Amazing.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mary.
You're welcome.
Sean, you make
Is
our
this-
jobs easy.
Is this boulder to scale?
Got something done specifically for this lot in order to like.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Great, thanks.
Okay, we are gonna move ahead now under new business to item number 2C. A request by Brandon Dedman of SMS Architects for sign program amendment application for the Thompson Hotel located at 414 North Palm Canyon Drive. A staff report, please.
The project in front of you is a proposed sign perk amendment for the Thompson Hotel. So the Thompson Hotel site is a 3.84 acre lot that's located between North Palm Canyon Drive and North Indian Canyon Drive on the south side of East Alejo. The zone designation of the site is a central business district, and for that reason, the proposed sign program amendment is subject to the sign ordinance of the downtown and uptown area. These are the renderings of the Thompson Hotel, and then also I was able to find the site plan that applicant submitted previously. So this Thompson Hotel, which includes a hotel, retail, and the parking areas, the site's going to be accessible from the North Palm Canyon Drive, and there will be a vehicle access on Indian and East Alejo Road. So when it comes to the sign program, there are two types of sign programs. So that there's one that conforms to the sign ordinance regulations, which can be approved by the Director of Planning Services. And the other sign program, which is non-conforming to sign ordinance regulations, which requires architecture review committee. The reason why this application is sign program amendment is because the original sign program was approved by the director back in November. And at the time, the submitted sign program included signage that did not conform to the sign ordinance regulations. And for the reason you are reviewing this additional signage here tonight. So this is the overall sign program the applicant is proposing. As the staff mentioned, some of the signs have been approved as a part of the original sign program. And the signs include individual tenant signs, as well as public safety and convenience signs, such as parking and valet and so forth. So tonight, the staff is requesting that architecture review 5 signs that are shown here. The signage for tenant N space, which includes blade signs and the wall sign, and the Thompson Hotel and the Hawaiian Monument sign, a pedestrian directory sign, as well as signage for the second floor restaurant use, which is called Lola Rose. So the staff is going to go over what the issues are for individual signs. And this image to show where the proposed sign is located. So the tenant space N is tucked away from Palm Canyon Drive. And it does not face a so-called frontage that's defined in the zoning code, which does not allow this tenant to have any signage. The Thompson Hotel Monument sign is located in the downtown area. the downtown and uptown sign ordinance does not provide any language pertaining to the monument sign. In other words, a monument sign and free signs is not listed as a permitted sign type. And the fourth one, it's a pedestrian directly sign. So based on the design of the signage, this signage is intended to serve a directional purposes rather than directory sign, which typically includes a list of businesses and facilities that are available on site. So this signage does not meet the definition. Even if the signage met the definition, it does not meet the condition that's required for a pedestrian directory sign to be allowed at the site. And finally, directional signs are not expressly noted as a permitted sign in the downtown and uptown sign ordinance. And the issue with this last, the Rhoda Rose wall sign is that because the restaurant is operated by the Thompson Hotel, it's not an independent business. For the reason the Thompson Hotel already has approved signage, and this will be the business's second either main sign or secondary sign, which is not permitted by the zoning code. So the zoning code provides that the sign program, which varies from the specific requirements of the sign ordinance, may be approved if the architecture review committee finds the following. So there are three findings that are required for the architecture review committee to make. And the staff is not going to go over the details, but the first one basically means that the site has a very unique characteristics, which prevents the signage to become really effective signage and provides adequate visibility. The second one is that the requested deviations from the sign ordinance regulation is reasonable, meaning it's not a complete, something that's very different from what would be allowed under the zoning ordinance requirements. And the third one is that the approved sign program is compatible with the surrounding property and consistent with the intent of the sign ordinance. So based on the staff analysis, staff finds that the project generally meets the required findings the staff mentioned earlier. And however, the conditions of approval are recommended to address some of the issues. For instance, the tenant sign N, staff is recommending a minor changes to the language of the sign ordinance for consistency purposes. Also, the staff is recommending that recommending a condition of approval, which requires a site plan for the monument sign to make sure that the staff can confirm the precise location of the sign and to ensure that the sign installation will not interfere with the pedestrian and vehicular circulations. And the last one is that the implementation of these conditions of approval will not really have any impact to this sign program amendment that the applicant is requesting. So for the reason, staff is recommending that the architecture review committee adopt a resolution and approve the project subject to the recommended conditions of approval. This concludes the staff presentation, and applicant is here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just briefly, because for the purposes of the public record and public comment, I think we went through a lot of information there, and I just want to stress that I think what we're trying to communicate is that this is a unique development. It's a very large development, and I think honestly, our zoning code and our sign regulations just haven't contemplated this scale and type of development. And so the reason you're seeing this is because it falls a little bit outside of the norm. But for the reasons Noriko is saying, we do support the application with the conditions as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee for staff? Applicant comments? Does the applicant want to add anything more to what we've heard?
We can add a little bit to it.
Please give us your name and you have 10 minutes.
My name is Brandon Dedman with SMS Architects. And just for those of you that might not be familiar with the project, I know it's been going on in the city for some time, so we're getting towards the end of it finally, but the project was intentionally designed to really have the retail frontage facing your primary downtown zone there. So that was the reason why the hotel was really recessed back, with the entrance to the hotel being recessed from the street. And for that reason, why we're really looking to have some signage at the street to really help make sure people driving by and walking by, they're able to see that this is where you come in for the hotel versus driving around circles, trying to find the location for the hotel entrance. So we've designed some pretty respectful signs, try to keep them the size appropriate for the project and also be able to provide access and visibility for both pedestrian and vehicle traffic as they went by, to be able to make sure they know where the project is and be able to find it and be able to locate the property.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee for the applicant? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do have one.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom.
The, let's call them the main signs that go across, and it's, so you've got, first of all, I think it's well done. Like, you know, the graphics and everything, and then the way, they called it out here. The beginning portion, let's say on the left side, is 16 inches, and that's to allow for a capital letter.
And he's not talking about the monument sign, but the actual
Yeah,
signs on
the
the
tenant
building.
signs, that's correct. I think in the signage zoning allows us for
Mhm.
certain letters to be a little bit bigger than majority of the signage.
And so the way that'll work going down the street. Each business, irrespective of what type of business it is, will have a capital letter or some kind of standardization of font.
Yeah, it gives them the opportunity to use their logo or their brand for the sign. So when you go by, you'll see and you'll understand who the tenant is there.
But I do want to comment, tell me if I'm wrong, all of that has been approved.
Correct.
We're just looking at these 5 extra little signs that are finishing out the program. Any other questions? Thank you, Brendan. Comments from the committee?
I like the blade signs.
I think it's all nice, and I think the comments that Chris made certainly make a lot of sense, that the scale of this project is unique. The fact that the entrance isn't on Palm Canyon Drive, you need to draw people into that motor court. So I'm pleased with all of this.
Yeah, I think they're appropriate to the project and tasteful. I agree.
I concur.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve with staff recommendation.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Second by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you for coming down. It's kind of one of the things we have to do to keep everything above table, but we're anxious to have our first drink in your new restaurant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any comments from the committee on any items?
Few.
Chris, okay?
So a reminder, I circulated an invitation to the holiday party that we'll be having on December 21st. I hope you all saw that invite and are able to make it. I will be sending more details on that shortly, but it's Thursday, December 21st. We're looking to begin at 5:30 or 6 p.m. So I will send that information around to everyone. I also circulated the 2024 calendar to each of you with the dates. We're encountering something a little bit challenging, but I think we've sorted it out. You'll all remember, of course, better than I. But I think when we standardized the meeting times to 5:30 p.m. across all of the boards and committees, as I understand it, we immediately had a pandemic and we haven't been in a situation where we've had all of our boards and committees in person, which we will as of January. So there's a bit of musical chairs and sort of chess that has to play out in terms of making sure we have all of the rooms available. So you'll see denoted on the schedule a few instances where we actually need to be meeting in the council chambers because of holidays or other things that shift our normal Monday meetings to Tuesdays, and then conflicts that we have with other boards and committees. So just pointing out to note that both of our meetings in January, for example, and the meeting after Labor Day fall into that category. The other thing to update you all on is recruitment to bring folks into the ERC. So there is a subcommittee of planning commission members, including the chair, Kathy Wermick, as well as now planning commissioner Robert Rotman, who you'll all remember very well from this committee, who's assisting the plan in his role as planning commissioner in recruiting new members to fill the vacancies that we have and will have on this committee. So we are working through that process. We are hopeful and optimistic we'll have at least a few people appointed at the planning commission meeting this month to be seated for the January ARC meeting. What that means is sadly, I believe this is the last meeting of our chair, Tom Jakeway. So I do want to extend my gratitude and thanks to you for many years of service to this committee.
Certainly.
And we're looking forward to working with you, hopefully in a different capacity, or maybe you'll take your year off and come back to us, but thank you.
And
to
I
our
just want to
chair.
say, you know, we've had a great committee, and I don't think we've had one project that we didn't approve unanimously. We were always able to just work things out and make good suggestions to the applicant, so I think that we have been a successful architectural review committee.
I concur in the short time I've
Under
been
the
here.
leadership.
So
Okay,
thank you. And that's all I have.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna take my
Yes,
class home.
please. I will ask you to formally adjourn the meeting, Mr. Chair.
Yes, it is
Last time.
6:40 and the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.